40 years, you have not been able to do anything.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? And then you bring this to us now. And I'm sorry, your director of steel will be in charge. Is that not his duty? He doesn't know anything. He can't even speak to the thing that he's coming to present. He reads it again. He can't answer the questions. It's not good enough, please. Appropriate thing. We give you up to Monday to do the appropriate thing. And I'm sure they will tell you what it means when you disobey us.
Here, on behalf of my Honorable Minister, Mr. Wale Edun, the Minister for the Economy, the Coordinating Minister. He was coming and there was an urgent call that he received. I was at a workshop. He said no, he respects every committee. I have to come in person and tender his unreserved apology. And that's why I'm here. I did not come with a written document, and that's why I did not go to the podium. However, Ministry of Finance is a supporting ministry whereby all ministries and agencies do receive funds from us. Should there be any need for information or clarification from the ministry, Chair will be ready to avail those information on behalf of the ministry. Once again, apologies on my minister's absence. Thank you.
An agreement was reached. Like I said in my speech, a sum of $400 and something million was paid. The Ministry of Justice may have been involved in the arbitral proceedings and the settlement, but they have no powers to pay. So that money must have come as directed by your ministry. We need to know three things. One, the source of funding of that money, where it came from. Two, whatever correspondence was sent to you by the Ministry of Justice advising that these monies be paid and the reasons they gave why it is prudent to pay after all these problems that, because when you look at it, the Ministry of Steel in this, even their source summary said they didn't do anything, they didn't perform their obligation. So the question is that why were they then paid? If you say they didn't perform the obligations under the agreement, then why was the money paid? I'm sure the ministry must have given a reason to you before proceeding to make that payment.
They are not here.
And three, how Ajaokuta and Nigerian Iron Oil are being funded today. Somebody must be paying the salaries. How do you fund them? And under what heading does your ministry? I know the Ministry of Steel would have made provision for it, but I'm sure you also will be convinced that, okay, these payments should go. So those are the three things. I've said this so that we can help each other. Let's condescend on the things that we require from your own ministry, and we'll be happy. But we'd expect that we can have them by Monday.
The PAMSEC said, Chairman, the PAMSEC said he just resumed office yesterday. I feel sorry for you that you are resuming to face this kind of problem. This is an indication that lots of these problems are waiting for you to handle. I cannot see a situation where somebody is coming to face a Senate public inquiry and will come with 2 pages of such watery summary. with the enormous amount of money sunk into Ajaokuta. I don't even know who Global Infrastructure is, whether they are local company or foreign company. It's not elaborate. No terms of concession, no conditions, nothing. How do you want us to take off? And this is the first presentation. And from the way the man was presenting, it clearly shows that it was written for him to come and read. The chairman reminded him to speak to the paper. He couldn't. He went back to read. So, Chairman, if the ministry is not ready, I would request that you step them down to come back with a more serious document if they want to make a presentation, so that we can move on with other stakeholders who would want to give us information before we face them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you comfortable and happy with what you sent to this committee in response to the inquiries submitted to you?
With due respect, distinguished Senator, the letter that was sent to us was a bit, it asked us to present a summarized memorandum. It's actually said a summarized and elaborate memorandum, and we couldn't really.
Excuse me.
So we
Mr.
provided a summarized memorandum.
1 second. This is what you submitted. Ministry of Steel is the highest stakeholder in this investigative hearing, an issue of Ajaokuta Steel. This is what the Ministry of Steel submitted in the elaborate request made to you. It shows that you are not even ready to be open and transparent to this committee. And we are not happy about that. We will write you for that, provide and go back and provide further information. You cannot come to an investigative hearing of Ajaokuta. This shows why Ajaokuta is not working. Because the people saddled with the responsibility to operate the steel sector are not serious. How can you submit 3 documents that are working and passing bulk? Look at what you submitted to the Senate. This is also, and it shows clearly. This is the first day of the investigative hearing and the first presentation, and look at what we are getting. It shows you are not transparent. It shows you are not ready for us to do this investigative hearing, and we are not happy about that. Everybody's kids. Nigeria is suffering. Ajaokuta Steel from 1979 has not produced steel, and you gave us 2 pages that are watery. Why? Do you have conscience? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
An elaborated report, right? But you chose the summary. Now let me explain to you what this means. In my hands here is the Inua Magaji report, okay? The larger part here is the detailed elaborated report, and the first 7 pages here is the summary. So I actually worry about your experience, your expertise in becoming the FAMSEC. Otherwise, you should have known that what we requested of you is actually 2 reports. One, the elaborated part, which be as thick as possible, containing all the relevant contractual agreements, everything that concerns, even the profiling of each parties, the termination of the contracts, and then you can now attach to that a 3 to 5 page summary. So you, out of whatever thought it wise to submit only the summary while evading the major content that would have enabled us to do our job. Anyway, I'll pass you on to the chairman himself.
Thank you, my colleagues. Concise, know which hunting, and understand what has happened there. I actually think that is in the best interest of your ministry to lead the charge of ensuring that Ajaokuta works. It's your responsibility more than any other person, because you are the supervising ministry. Am I not correct? Let me tell you the problem I have with this. 2 things. One, with respect to you, I don't think you bothered to even study or understand why you are here. And I say this advisedly. You know why? Because when we sent you, when I say you, I mean the ministry, our letter, we said to you, these are the things we are looking for. Get us these things, and then do a summary of your submissions. We then listed 10 things that you are to speak to. I'm sure you are aware of that, except you didn't bother to even read it when you were coming this morning. Now, when you get up as the accounting officer of your ministry, you said to us, your director of steel is in a better position to speak to all these things. And we said to him, let him speak to it. What does he say? You know, because I want us, because tomorrow, you are the ones that will come and say, oh, there's any set of paper, and then they didn't do anything. Now, look at the thing. I want you to take it page by page, Mr. Pamsek. Let's start from your paragraph 2, subparagraph 1. I read it to you. The concession agreements provided specific operations to both FGN and GINL. It also provided a schedule for constitution of a monitoring team. Although the monitoring committee was considered, there was no adequate provision to enable the committee. What are the provisions? What are the things that made you not be able to do anything? Nothing. To make matters worse, you then go to paragraph 4 and say, those things that you said in paragraph 1 are the things that are responsible. What did you say in paragraph 1? Nothing. What does this mean? Adequate provision. What are the provisions? You have said nothing. Now, let's go to your paragraph 3. Madam, take it one by one. You say the extent of compliance by performance GINL in line with terms of the concession agreements. GNI did not substantially comply with the charge of the obligations. In what way? Nothing. There you go on. The extent of compliance could not be time because some of the obligations were not time bound. What are the obligations that were not time bound? Nothing. Mr. Pam said, nothing. Then you go to paragraph 4. The monitoring committee was to monitor and verify the vessel of GNI under the concession agreement. With the invitation of the monitoring committee as highlighted above, where did you highlight the invitation of the committee? Where's the highlight? Zero. You make reference to something that does not exist in your own submission. Then you go on. It was not possible to determine or verify the exact amount imported and invested by GNI. How can you come and say this here? You are the supervising ministry. How can you come and say you don't know the person you did a concession for, how much he imported? That's what you are saying here. That's what you are saying. I'm reading it out to you. How can you come and tell us that you don't know the amount the man brought in and invested? I am from the Ministry of Steel. Now, you go to paragraph 4, 5, because I want to highlight these things. You said there's any final of inquiry to the operation of the uncle and the under the mandate of blah blah, stated that both concession agreements and share agreements are not in the overall interest of Nigerian nation and recommend for their termination. What was the challenge? Nothing. Why did they say that is not in the interest of Nigeria? Nothing. You then go on, settlement agreement. The payment of US $496 million to Nigeria was also handled by the federal government council under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Justice. You are the supervising ministry. Are you saying that you didn't bother to ask the Ministry of Justice why this money was to be paid? Is that what you are saying here? Then you go on. You see, since the termination of concession agreement, the companies have been managed by appointed so as a technical audit of ASL was carried out in 2018. We're in 2024, which give the technical status of the plants, machinery, and equipment. Are you saying that from 2018, as supervising ministry, 6 years, no report? Is that what you are saying here? Then you say you want to determine the technical state. How can you determine the technical state of something that you yourself said from 2018 you didn't have any report? How can, now ask the question is, how can Ajaokuta work with this kind of report? I would believe that your ministry, I repeat, should be in the front of making this thing work. You should be on top of it. You have presented to us something that is not in any way helpful. I would have expected. These are the challenges. This is the way I think. When I say think, the ministry, Mr. Famsek, please listen. This is the way I think we can resolve this problem. Let me say something. I am not from your ministry. I've done a lot of research. I know, for example, that your minister had some meetings with Russians about Ajaokuta. Is that not correct? That this is the intent of the ministry going forward. Have you said that in this your report? Now, if we write a report and we recommend something that is totally at variance with the intent of the ministry, what do you think will happen? I would have expected you to come here. We also recognize all these problems. See the steps we have taken. See what we are doing. See what we want to achieve by the steps we've taken. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is not good enough. I would say to you with respect, please go back and do the appropriate thing. I have highlighted the gaps in your presentation. Please go and address those things. I don't want to write a report indicting you. And when I say you, I don't mean you as the PAM said, as in your ministry. Because what you have presented today, in the full glare of the public and all Nigerians, is that the ministry is not on top of its game. And I don't think that's the impression you want to create. I also don't think that is what the ministry has been doing. But you are not being helpful. And that is why I said that you had presented something. You gave us some documents. I expected you to come and speak to those documents. To say, if you go to the concession agreement, they were meant to do 1, 2, 3 things. They did not do it. And when you go to, he says, when they don't do it, this is what we should do. That's why we took this step. Oh, we paid for something. Are you saying that the Ministry of Justice paid the money without any reference to your ministry? You can't be. Let's go back and do this. I beg of you.
If I make a summary presentation on behalf of Ajaokuta Steel, I have submitted the following to this ad hoc committee. A copy of memo to the President by the Minister of Power and Steel on the completion of Ajaokuta at that time. A concession agreement between the federal government and Seoul Gas Energy Limited and Seoul Gas Energy Nigeria Limited. I have submitted the request for dissolution of concession agreement by Seoul Gas Energy Limited. I have also submitted the agreement between the federal government and Seoul Gas Energy Limited for the dissolution of the concession agreement. I have also submitted the concession agreement between the federal government and Global Steel Holding Limited and Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. I have also submitted the share sales and purchase agreement between the federal government and Global Steel Holding Limited and Global Infrastructure Limited. I have also submitted copies of the report of the Administrative Panel of Inquiry into the operation of Ajaokuta Steel Company and National Oil, popularly known as Inuamagaji report. I have also submitted the privatization of Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited, a move from Minister of Finance as the Chairman of National Council of Privatization. But I want to say that Ajaokuta is a strategic project. A decision on Ajaokuta is taken by the Ministry of Steel Development. The management of Ajaokuta Steel, most importantly, is involved in daily operation of running Ajaokuta Steel. The concession agreement between the federal government and JINL and JSCL was a product of failed concession initiative between the Nigerian and Seoul Gas, Nigerian government and Seoul Gas. The Seoul Gas agreement was determined in August 2004. The concession agreement was entered into the following visitation of the then Senate Committee on Power and Steel and House Committee on Steel with some key government officials to the facilities of the concessionaire in Bulgaria and India. And they actually advised the government appropriately. The issue of share sales and purchase agreement between federal government, GINL and GIH was a product of National Committee on Privatization Initiative to the BPE and was intended to upgrade the concession agreement to share sales and purchase agreement after due diligence carried out by BGL Consortium on behalf of BPE. This this was despite some fundamental issues raised by the BGL report. The extent of compliance of and performance of GIHL in line with the terms of the consumer agreement was subject of investigation of the Inua Magaji report, which raised some issues, some lacuna on the concession agreement and infractions on the agreement by GIHL and GINL. The infraction, which include capacity on the financial transaction, opacity in the financial transaction, corporate governance weakness, informed the late President Yaradua to cancel this agreement. On the steel plant, on the side of the steel plant is located on the 800 hectares of land. The basic oxygen funnel to which this technology was built is still the best steel making process today. Even in our most recent visit to China, the plant that was built in 2019 is still using this basic oxygen funnel. So when people talk about obsolete, Ajaokuta Steel plants is not obsolete, but you don't wonder a plant that was built about 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, we have moved from analog to digital, to PLCs and DSC, digital control systems. So you can imagine that 5% of that plant, the controls will have required to be replaced. But all the other part of the plant, the mechanical, electrical, mostly are still very intact. Based on the audit I carried out, because when I arrived in Ajaokuta, sometimes in 2017, the first question is that you can't manage what you don't know. So I put a team of engineers, Ajaokuta engineers, retirees that were trained in Russia. I brought them back. I went to Nigeria Society of Engineers, where I'm a fellow. Spoke with the president. I got some of the specialists on steel to come over to Ajaokuta for a period of 3 months. We took our time to move from one plant to the other to find out what was installed, what has gotten bad, and what will require replacement. And we came out with a report that was delivered to the Minister of Steel at that time. In the overall, the state of the plant is still very, very intact. Basically, when you talk about you want to revamp, you want to restate Ajaokuta, basically what you are going to do is to change the entire control system. And most of the part of the plant that is exposed to the atmospheres have been destroyed by weather. And then we can now introduce modernization. During our interaction with the Russia, the original TPE, sometimes in 2020, before the COVID, they actually gave us a proposal, because one of the fundamental raw material we don't have in Nigeria, what we have is not suitable, is the coking coal. And they said our blast furnace could modify to use the local coal. So we're actually sitting on a very heavy investment that will change the narrative of this country. These are my recommendations. And when we have the new Minister of Steel, we actually have a very good discussion regarding our way forward on Ajaokuta Steel. Based on that, he presented a 3-year plan and also the 5-year plan. Part of the vision is what I call phase reactivation. There are some of the completed parts of Ajaokuta Steel, the lime plant. Most of all the lime used in Nigeria are imported. Lime is used by some of the local steel production. We also use it in pharmaceutical industries. So the lime plant has been completed and is readily available. All we need to do is to put some costs together to carry out extensive maintenance and actually get a raw material, which is limestone, to ensure that we can produce lime for the nation. I've actually done a business case that I share with the minister. With the availability of funds, we could do this within these 6 months and put this plant into operation. We also have the mills, the light section mills that have been 100% completed. They have run at one point in time. Very recently, the Honorable Minister of Steel Development engaged Senator Dave Umahi, the Minister of Works and Housing, where they have an agreement in principle that we should be able to produce the iron rod required for the corporate roads. We actually carried out a business case, which I can share with the committee, which shows primarily that the amount of money that will be required to buy this iron rods from the open market, we'll say billions of naira. If you put that same amount of money to revamp the Line 6 section and also buy the billets required to produce the same quantity of iron rod. Talking about completion of Ajaokuta Steel, my opinion always, as an engineer, is that the best people that can complete and operationalize the plant are people that made the design. The original view that TPE is always my first option. If we cannot have our way with them, then we can start looking at other options because engineering is universal. All the steel plants in India and also in China have this Russian technology. They are the ones that build those plants. Invariably, they understand this plant because in my last visit to China, the steel plant that was operational was actually having the same system with what we have in Ajaokuta Steel. So it won't be out of place if all these opportunities are explored. Thank you so much. We also have external infrastructure that will require to be sorted out. External infrastructure because heavy materials are required for steel production. We require about 6.2 million tons of raw materials to produce steel at 1.3 million tons capacity in Ajaokuta Steel. So rail lines will be required. Luckily for us, the rail line between Ajaokuta and Itapi and to Warri has been sorted out. So that's available. But also have individual rail network within Ajaokuta about 60 kilometers that will require upgrade. We also need to dredge the river Niger because we're going to move a lot of heavy equipment, and that will be required to ensure that we can also export our material at any point in time when we have sought out our local requirement. I want to thank the Honorable Committee for giving me the opportunity to make this brief presentation. Thank you.
And in 2018, a technical audit, a comprehensive technical audit, by your words, was carried out. Did you submit a copy of that technical audit?
Distinguished Senator, to the ministry, and when the Senator Yahya committee visited, we actually handed over a copy to the National Assembly.
No, we're asking, did you submit a copy? Because we just checked with the clerk. You did not submit to this committee.
No, I didn't. But we can submit a committee. We can submit a copy to the committee within 24 hours.
We don't have it. Please, we would like to have that because it's important we look at the undersigned, those who actually participated, because you mentioned you worked with the Society of Engineers, and also it's important we actually attest to that and verify it, because to the best of some of us here seated, Society of Engineers claim they did not participate in the technical audit, and we would also need to know how much was paid for that technical audit. To a large extent, it was documented that about 3 billion naira was budgeted for that, but words have it that about 50 million or so, but that's just speculation. It's very important that we know if we want to verify the authenticity of the technical audit, who were the experts that participated in the conduction of that technical audit. That's one. Secondly, you were silent on the Ajaokuta Kogi Nigeria Limited. You were already a sole administrator when the Kogi State government registered a company.
Distinguished Senator, come back again. I didn't get that.
Yes, you were already a sole administrator when the Kogi State government registered a company named Ajaokuta Kogi Nigeria Limited, misrepresented itself as the owner of that in furtherance to securing loans and others. What do you have to say with respect to the Ajaokuta Kogi Nigeria Limited as a company or a vehicle to own, operate the national steel plant? And the third question is, do you think the repayment of $496 million to Global Steel Holdings Limited is justified?